Hi, welcome back to Mr. Leek's free science tutorials. In this video, what we're going to be talking about is the difference between osmosis, diffusion and active transport. Now, osmosis comes up a huge amount on exam papers and there's required practicals along what goes along with it. Diffusion and active transport are also very popular to be asked about. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the specifics of each individual one and then answer the question. Okay, now what I have here is a table, and what it does is it talks about diffusion, osmosis and active transport. Now firstly what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain what diffusion is. Diffusion is the movement of particles in a solution, so in a liquid or a combination of liquids or gas, from a higher to a lower concentration. Right, so if you just picture in your head, you're in your class, right, teacher walks in and they've got perfume on or aftershave on. Right, what will happen is the concentrated smell, the concentration or the highest concentration is right by that person by the door when they walk in. The people sitting right next to them, they will then smell them first, and then what that concentration will do, or what it'll do, spread across the room itself, going from a higher to a lower concentration. That can happen in numerous different circumstances. If you just drop a bit of potassium manganate into the bottom of a liquid, right, what will happen is it will sit there for a while, and then what it will do, it will diffuse and it will spread out around the glass itself. The two main places that you're going to get asked about diffusion, right, is oxygen and carbon dioxide and gas exchange. Right, that basically means that when you breathe in oxygen, you've got a high concentration in your lungs. That then diffuses across from your lungs, where there's a lot of it, into your blood, where there's less of it, and then you've got blood in your oxygen. Gas exchange is then where the carbon dioxide is then going in the opposite direction. So basically what happens there is there's more carbon dioxide in your blood and there's less carbon dioxide in your lungs, and so what happens is the carbon dioxide goes out of your blood into your lungs. Another example is urea into the kidneys. Now urea is kind of the yellow stuff that's in your wee. Now there's a number of factors that affect this, right? These are mainly temperature and the surface area. So the warmer it is, the faster it happens. The larger the surface area, the faster it happens. But another key thing to do with diffusion is the fact that there is no energy required. So when that smell goes across the room, what happens is it's literally just doing it. There is no energy that's inputted into it to make it happen. Osmosis is almost exactly the same as diffusion, except it is the movement of water. As soon as they start talking about water in an exam, what they're doing is they're talking about osmosis. It's the movement of water from a dilute solution to a more concentrated solution. Now, dilute and concentrated. Dilute means there's not very much of it. Concentrated means there's a lot more of it. Think about your orange juice. My daughter, she loves strong orange juice. I know she just pours half a cup of cordial and half a cup of water. That's concentrated. I like it much weaker, right? That is then dilute. So you've got a dilute one, which is the pale one, concentrated, a darker one where there's more of it. Good examples of this is plants absorb water from the soil by osmosis through their root hairs. So basically that means that on the outside of the root, there's a lot of water. It's rained, all the soil's wet. Inside the plant, there isn't as much water. So osmosis is where the water moves from a lot of water outside to less water inside. Additional information is plants then use this water for photosynthesis and transporting minerals. So photosynthesis must have water to happen, and transporting minerals through your phloem and your xylem, that also must be there, the water. Another key thing about osmosis is the fact that there's again no energy required. Okay, so the water going from outside a root into a root doesn't require any energy. The third one, right, and this then tells you what it's like, basically from its title, active transport. Active is energy, so energy is required. This is then the movement of particles from a dilute solution to a more concentrated solution. And basically what it is the particles are going the opposite way on the concentration gradient. So if I walked into a room, right, and I had a very, very strong aftershave on, that aftershave would then gradually spread around the room by diffusion. If active transport was then going to happen, now this is obviously just a theory, it's not something to write down in your exam. Active transport would be a bit like me trying to grab those particles, those smell particles, back to me, and that would then require energy. Main two places in which this is then talked about are movable mineral ions into roots. So basically, if you think about it, soil, right, has got minerals in it, but there's loads of other stuff. Inside the plant itself, there is a lot more minerals, right? It's more concentrated because the plant's taken it out. So for more minerals to go from the soil into the plant, what's then required is active transport and energy. The other one is the movement of glucose into the small intestine. So for us, right, where we have then got eaten whatever sugary food that we've had recently, right, there's less glucose in our small intestine, right, than there is in the blood. So basically what happens is we have to use up energy to take the glucose out of our intestine into the blood. That is again active transport. Now, a comparison. Okay, what we've got here now is we've got what is the difference between osmosis, diffusion and active transport. Okay, so this is then what you would actually write down in your answer. Diffusion is the movement of particles in a solution or gas from a higher to lower concentration and doesn't require any energy. An example is oxygen and carbon dioxide gas exchange in the lungs and urea in the kidneys. The factors that affect diffusion are the temperature and the surface area. Osmosis is the movement of water from a dilute solution to a more concentrated solution. Again, no energy is required. An example of this is a plant absorbing water from the soil by osmosis through their root hair cells, and then the plants need that water for photosynthesis and transporting minerals. Active transport is the movement of particles from a dilute solution to a more concentrated solution, and it does require energy because it's going against the concentration gradient. Two good examples of this are movement of mineral ions into the root of a plant, right, just picture it, and the movement of glucose into the small intestine. All right, now what I've done then is I've then gone through what is the difference between osmosis, diffusion and active transport. Thank you.